Admiral James Stavridis, a former Supreme Allied Commander with NATO, is here now to discuss that cable specifically and the overall U.S. fight against ISIS. Admiral, we appreciate the time. You oversaw NATO operations in Syria during your career. Do you agree then with the diplomats who signed this cable?
I do, as a general proposition. First, I want to make the point that this process is a very interesting one. It's got historical context within the Department of State. On the other hand, I just can't imagine 50 generals and admirals signing a letter to the Secretary of Defense. But it is part of the State Department culture. The substance of it, Josh, I think is correct, that we are giving Assad too much of a free ride given the level of atrocity that he's committed. Yes, we have to get after the Islamic State, but we can't drop our values. And I think that's really the proposition here that the diplomats are making.
Now, Admiral, it has been pointed out that this memo was not intended as a political statement, that it was intended to spark policy review within the department and the administration. So then the overall policy with regard to Syria, you say we need to be more pronounced in challenging Assad. What changes then could be made?
Well, first of all, we do need to put the Islamic State at the top of the priority list, and that means taking back Fallujah, that means taking back Mosul, cutting the oxygen off to Raqqa, Syria, which is the heart of the Islamic State. But, Josh, at the same time, we need to press diplomatically on a resolution that does remove Assad from power. And that's crucial. He has committed real genocide against the people of Syria. He's killed children, he tortures, he drops barrel bombs, he uses gas. That has to have accountability. We need to do that on the diplomatic political side. That's what Secretary Kerry is pushing. But I think he needs more tools to, shall we say, enhance the Russians' support so that we can take Assad down. That's the heart of this cable.
Interestingly, the Obama administration has made it clear that they are foregoing that policy directive so as to focus on ISIS. However, just yesterday we heard CIA Director John Brennan say in front of Congress in testimony there that ISIS remains as dangerous as ever. I want to play you just a bit of that.
ISIL has made extensive and sophisticated use of the various technological innovations that we have witnessed over the past decade, taking full advantage of social media. A large part of the ISIL cadre are young individuals who have grown up, whether it be in the Middle East, Europe, or other places, in an era of great technological development. And so using these mediums comes naturally to them, and they gravitate toward them, but they also are very aware of what mediums provide them the greatest security and the greatest protection from government insight and oversight of that.
Admiral, the director spoke about the territorial losses of the Islamic State, and you just mentioned the importance of retaking Fallujah and Mosul. But increasingly, it seems as though the front lines of this war are places like Paris, perhaps places like New York City and Orlando and San Bernardino. How then to best take the fight to that front line and prevent lone wolf attacks like the ones we've seen?
Josh, you've got it exactly right, with one exception. I think the true front line of this conflict is cyberspace. It's the internet. It's the social networks. That's where the confrontation is really occurring. That's where the so-called Islamic State is proselytizing, recruiting, command and controlling. So job one is getting control of cyberspace. Job two is getting into the social networks with messages that counter violent extremism. Job three is using biometrics, intelligence sharing, all the tools at our disposal, coordinating with our international partners. All of that allows us to find and track and fix and finish these people. Granted, some of them are going to slip through because they're very clever and they can hide in plain sight, as this terrorist did in Orlando. But if we put all of our tools together collectively, we focus on the cyberspace of this, I think we can get at them in that dimension. Meantime, We still have to do the hard work, boots on the ground in Raqqa to take the center so we can then follow through on the periphery.
Admiral, we are certainly, it would seem, an unsteady nation in the days following the attack in Orlando. And it seems that the director's testimony yesterday, in a way, was a variation of what we saw with this cable, that the director's assessment that ISIS is more dangerous than ever came just days after President Obama had assured the country that the fight against ISIS was working. So what to make then of this contradiction?
The complexity of what is happening in Syria cannot be overstated. And I think these two elements are really manifestations of that, and they're both legitimate concerns. At the end of the day, I think we have to prioritize, but here's a news flash. We're a big nation with serious resources, real capability. We have many allies and partners. I think you're going to see NATO step up into the fight against the Islamic State, for example. We need to marshal those resources, create a strategic plan, get after the Islamic State as the top priority, but we cannot let down on what Assad is doing to the rest of that state. We can do this, but it's going to take will and leadership.
As the former Supreme Allied Commander then of NATO, how can NATO specifically assist in this fight?
NATO can do three things extremely well, Josh. At the top of the list would be train, equip, and organize. So that's not deploying 100,000 troops. It's deploying, let's say, 15,000 troops in total to train, equip, and organize the Kurds in the north, the Iraqis in the south. Second, NATO has enormous intelligence resources, everything from satellites to drones to human intelligence. All of that connectivity can be brought to bear. And thirdly, NATO has political clout. Given that so many of the members are part of the UN Security Council, France, Britain, along with the United States, we can bring political force to bear through those NATO channels that'll be complementary to what we're doing from Washington. When you put those three things in the fight, it's very helpful to have NATO on side.
It certainly seems that clout will be as important as ever. Admiral James Stavridis, as always, we thank you for your time today.
Josh, thanks a lot.